let me call you back in half an hour. In front of the customer discussing. I went back, I called a couple of our guys, phoned them up in the middle of the night.
2 o'clock in the morning.
2 o'clock in the morning. I said it was very intense. This is how we work in Icertis today too. So I called them up, I said, hey, this is the challenge, I know we can do it because at least it's Windows XP and we did have an agent on Windows XP. I know we can do it, but can we do it in a reasonable amount of time? And can we do it as a skunkworks project? Because I don't want to, hurt the release cycle that we are on. And I got a yes for an answer. I called Eric back. I said, Eric, you're on. Go ahead. But if you're fired and if they fires me, I'm not responsible. Right? So he said, fine. 2 hours later, he had a signed order. He's one of the great sales guys I've had the honor of working.
You've never done it before.
Never done it before.
You don't have even a solution there right now.
Yeah.
It's just on the promise. That's it.
It's just on that promise. And what was interesting was it was a big risk, right? It was lots of unknowns. And and then Dave called me, obviously, right? He said, "What did you commit to, Eric?" I said, "Dave, I thought the opportunity was good enough, and I will do it. It's, at the end of the day, it's software. Right? It's just resources and time. And we'll buy time. I know you will buy time for us." And he said, "You know what, Monish? I think this is the best thing we've done because we've never had a customer with 70,000 licenses on the first day of signing that contract. Never. So this is great." I think that kept me awake. That was one of the biggest challenges to actually deliver that in a given amount of time. I think that was a very interesting challenge. Taught me two things. One was, to put it a bit coarsely, showroom mein hona chahiye, godam mein nahi hua to chalega. Right? You have to have something to show and you have to be able to sell it. Getting it in the warehouse is the least of your problems. You will get it. Talent, money and time will buy you almost anything in the software world. It's virtual. Right? The second thing is, when you have to commit, make sure you have a team to back it up, which I did, thankfully. Right? And the team delivered. So the right team, and everybody agrees, but when it comes to delivery, I think people kind of tend to forget. I tended to forget a few times before. I think the team is absolutely critical. It has to kind of gel and come together and be kind of focused on what you want to deliver. And I think that was a great experience. So the challenge was big. It was it kept us sleepless for a while, but it was all worth it.
Okay.
So long answer, I know.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I think it's really worth it because it's a great learning for a lot of people out here. People tend to be conservative sometimes. I mean, you tend to err towards being conservative, right? You need to have everything in place, right, before you go and give it to somebody. And there's a great example of having nothing in place. Just a conversation, 30 minutes, 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't even know whether somebody responded to you or still sleeping and dreaming, right? So I think it's a great example.
Yeah.
With that, I think we'll come across to... I would love for you to share with the audience what have been some of your key learnings or takeaways which have been a common thread across all the experiences including Icertis so far. And I think you've spoken a couple of them right now,
right.
But if you could just list them out and put them together, I think that would be interesting for the audience.
Right, and I'll definitely do that. And again, with a small disclaimer, these are my own personal learnings. I've definitely met people who would not agree with me, obviously. But also it's also personal experience that kind of drives some of these. I think the first one, which I already stated, I think sales is very, very critical, and you'll always find exceptions to the rule. I think it's the rule that matters. I think sales is critical in any entrepreneurial gig that you get into. The second learning I've had is many people would kind of call this unfair business practice. If you commit to a customer when you don't have anything to sell, I think that is a misnomer. I think right from Apple to Microsoft to Facebook to WhatsApp, everybody sold something that they didn't have at some point. Right? It's an inherent kind of part of doing business. Right? You're not lying because what you're saying is, hey, I have the capability to deliver and I'm confident in myself. I think that learning has been very interesting because what happens is, I've seen corpses of startups in the Bay Area who have had their head down in technology for 2 years, come back and found that the world has moved ahead. And they're kind of lost because their product has no takers. It's much better to let your customers and prospects drive your product development than you driving it yourself.
Not just the customer, you have to take a leap of faith yourself.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They're very well put. I think that leap of faith is very, very important. But at the same time, that learning was that, if you get input, say, this is what I'm looking for, can you deliver? The 50% kind of what you need from that customer you already have, because he's saying, I'm looking for this, as opposed to you telling him what you have, and he's saying whether it matches his requirements or not. So that was a great learning, and that's come right from the beginning. Everything that I've done so far, every business that I've been part of, that learning has come out very, very strong.
To what extent do you tell a customer, hey, I don't have this today ready, or obviously you don't say I have nothing at all. So to what extent do you share this with your customers? I think that would be something relevant to you.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things, in terms of how we kind of today sell in Icertis too, is we talk about a framework, right? We call this the applied cloud framework, and we say all of our products are built on that framework, which is absolutely true, right? What we do on top of that is we also make sure that people understand that every customer is different, right? So every customer has different needs. We don't tell them we have it. We never do that, because that would be a lie, right? What we tell them is that, hey, we have all the right ingredients and all the right foundations to get you what you want, right? So when we say, hey, we are willing to commit, obviously in most cases the customer will say, hey, I'm going to put a penalty clause here. If you don't deliver by this date, you're going to actually have a monetary impact. Now to do that, especially when your business is small, at the beginning when we did that in the first couple of years of Icertis, that was a risk we took. That was a make or break risk. If we didn't make it, we would probably shut down, because we would, that kind of risk is substantial. But we took it because we knew we had the right ingredients and we could build it. So I've never promised something to a customer, nor have our salespeople something that we knew we could not do. Right? I think that was cardinal. That was part of our learning. Right? Sometimes you do overstretch or you do miscalculate. Sometimes it does happen. And then you have to go back to the customer, apologize and say, hey, sorry, I couldn't deliver, but we're willing to go the extra mile to actually make it happen. And maybe it's a matter of delay as opposed to not having to deliver at all. Thankfully, we've not been in a situation where we have faced that. We've always been successful in delivering in the right time, in the right budget. So, that's also part of luck. But that's definitely been a big key learning. The third one has been just attitude, right? And we talked about it briefly. Attitude in the sense that we've been ready always to walk away from a deal. Always. And I think that's been a great learning. I was very bad at this at the beginning of my career. Walking away from money, walking away from a customer, walking away from a possibility of revenue is very, very hard. But I learned the hard way, and I learned it from some great teachers in terms of why it is important to do this. And I think that has been my third kind of very important learning. That if the deal is not right for you, whether monetarily, whether commitment-wise, it's something that you cannot deliver, or from a focus perspective, walk away from it. And I'm not kidding. We've walked away from $500,000 deals. We said we are not going to do that because one of these fundamental parameters that we set for ourselves were not fulfilled, right? And I think the same thing, in JLogic, when incoming requests were coming in for acquisitions, that was a deal, right? At the end of the day, an acquisition is also a deal. So, are you as the DNA of the company, are you willing to walk away from a deal is very crucial to success, in my opinion. Because if you take the wrong decisions, you not only defocus, you also lose your credibility in the long run, which is never good, right? So walking away from deals is the third thing I would say I learned from all of my experiences, in very emphatic ways, right? In very big kind of, hey, we said, hey, if we had taken up this deal, we would have really lost to, excuse my French.